The underwater ocean survival game Subnautica is beloved by its fans for several different reasons, spanning from its wide range of creatures, interesting story, and fun gameplay. One thing that really stands out for most players, though, is the game's biomes. Subnautica is known for having a huge catalog of unique biomes, each with their own amazing aspects and contributions to the game's story. Although not necessarily every biome is as large or as cool as others, they typically have at least one thing that most players remember them by. One biome in particular, though, really isn't ever praised by the fanbase and is often even completely forgotten and ignored by some players, that being the Crag Field. Today, I want to see what the Crag Field lacks from the other biomes in Subnautica and why it's so overlooked and forgotten by the rest of the fanbase. Just a quick disclaimer, Subnautica is a very good game and you should definitely play it before watching this video if you haven't already, because the video does contain some spoilers for the game. Anyways, let's grab our prawn suit and storage upgrade and dive into the Crag Field. The first reason why I think the Crag Field might be so forgotten is because of its placement on the map. Unfortunately for the Crag Field, it's placed all the way on the edge of the map in a very deep part of the Subnautica crater, making some players scared to explore around it. Speaking of being afraid, the Crag Field is also placed right next to the Crash Zone, which is one of the deadliest biomes in the entire game, and houses 10 Reaper Leviathans, 6 of which are kind of close to the Crag Field. This typically makes the players very cautious of exploring the Crag Field because they're afraid they might go too far towards the Crash Zone and get the absolute shit beaten out of them by a Reaper passing by. The other biome that borders a significant amount of the Crag Field is the Grand Reef, which also houses 2 deadly Ghost Leviathans and a whole lot of Warpers, which are also dangerous as well. These 2 other biomes not only scare away some players, but also steal the attention from the Crag Field, as they're often looked as being the cooler biomes in that area because of other reasons which I'll go into further depth into later, like its fauna or wreck locations. This reason is probably the one I think to be least likely to be true, but I just wanted to throw it out anyways. Next up, the second reason why I think the Crag Field is so forgotten is because of its lack of wrecks and memorable locations within the biome. Most other biomes in Subnautica typically have either a large alien base, gigantic wrecks from the Aurora, or some significant land formation, adding some flair to the inside area of the biome. The Crag Field, however, is kind of just out of the way and doesn't really have any wrecks or things of the such, as it's literally just a field of rocks, aka a crag. The only 2 things I can really think of that counts as a landmark are the portal on the edge of the crag and the life pod with the Markiplier head in it. Another biome that also borders the crash zone and doesn't really have any wrecks or life pods is the Eastern Mushroom Forest. Although this biome is in a similar predicament to the crag, at least in terms of wrecks and memorable locations, it's usually a lot less forgotten, and that's because of so many other biomes next to it. Unlike the crag that's just kind of out of the way, making other biomes take the fame from it, the Eastern Mushroom Forest actually benefits from having these other biomes next to it, as the forest is closer to the middle of the map and it's a lot easier to access. Also, half the time I have to go to some of these biomes next to the Eastern Mushroom Forest, I literally have to go through the forest itself to get to some of these other biomes on the map from my base, like the Bulb Zone or the front of the Aurora. I want to mention real quick, I do go to the crag sometimes just for the Markiplier head in the life pod because I do think it is pretty cool. Other than the alien portal and the life pod though, there really aren't any significant places of memorabilia in the crag. The entire biome kind of just blends together with itself, making it even more forgotten by the entire player base. The third reason why I think the Crag Field is so forgotten is the fauna and flora that appears in this biome, or more accurately, the lack of it. Unfortunately, the devs decided to make this biome based off a real life Crag Field, which typically doesn't have anything going on in it. They're typically just walls or plateaus of rocks, and honestly, that's kind of it. Cragfields don't really have that much else going on in them, so they typically don't have any interesting plants or animals living in them. Because of this, the Cragfield in the game doesn't really have anything in them either. In terms of fauna, the only creatures that can be found in this biome, not including the tiny basic fish you can eat, are the bone shark, mesmer, and reefback leviathan. Not only is this a small amount of creatures to have in one biome, but every single one of these creatures can be found in at least two other biomes, getting rid of any chance of these creatures making the crag unique from the other biomes in 4546b. The same goes with the flora found around here, being the eye stalk, speckled rattler, paintcap, and tiger plant, as none of them are even near being exclusive to the Crag Field either, which again is really sad to see. Aesthetically speaking, the Crag Field also lacks colorful flora on the seafloor of it as well, lacking the things like the pale white blood vines from the blood kelp zone, the glow blue-winged sea anchors from the Grand Reef, or even the bright red grass from the grassy plateau. It's pretty much just completely dark and gray for the most part, with nothing standing out from it, which really sucks to see. The last reason why the crack field is most likely forgotten is because of its lack of important blueprints and data boxes in the biome. If you've ever explored the crag, you know there really isn't any aurora wreckage in the crag, so there really aren't that many fragments that you can scan to get new recipes. There's literally only four types of fragments that you can get in the biome, being the scanner room, modification station, Cyclops hull fragment, and the Cyclops engine fragment. Not only is this an embarrassing amount of blueprints that can be scanned in the biome, but most of these recipes are things you would already have by the time you explored the biome, or things that are just commonly found and a lot easier to access in other biomes as well. I want to mention as well that although you can find almost every type of surface ore here, I find it very disappointing that there's only two types of large deposits that you can mine with the prawn suit here, and I really think that giving the players more ores to be able to collect in mass chunks here would be a lot better, considering it is a rock field. Out of all the reasons I came up with, I think the main culprit for the Crag Zone's unfortunate lack of memorabilia in the players' minds is the lack of memorable fauna and flora in the biome. Almost every single biome has some plant or creature that makes them recognizable, whether it's something like the blood kelp bloodvines or the dune's iconic, there are multiple Leviathan class life forms in the region. Are you sure whatever you're doing is worth it? Voice line. If I had to change the crag, I'd give it something like a unique plant, or maybe some Leviathan sponge, just to give it an extra something to make it stand out. Anyways guys, that's it for today's video. Do you disagree with me and think that the Crag Field's the best biome in the game and nothing's wrong with it? Let me know in the comments. Also, let me know if you guys want to see some more Subnautica videos as well. If you liked the video, make sure to like and subscribe, and as always, adios.